A power move. Battle for the lead now. Tightens up in turn 3.
He'll dive to the bottom. He's going for the lead.
Hard, strong power move to the bottom of the racetrack.
Now, this week's edition of Pistol Pete's Power Rankings.
The dirt race at Bristol Motor Speedway is in the rearview mirror, and after Sunday night's checkered flag flew, here are the 10 drivers that make up this week's edition of the Power Rankings. One driver from last week's top 10 has dropped out. That driver's name is Denny Hamlin.
Oh, boy.
And we just made the list. We just made the list. We're on the list now. There you go.
What is going on there?
I don't know. I don't know. Now, I'll say this, Mike. As we go through this, I'll put a little bit of an asterisk. It's the dirt race, so it's different. It's a one-off. But I don't know what to tell you about the 11 team. I have no idea.
3 finishes of 16th or worse in the last 3. 16th, 20th, and 22nd. Those are un-Denny Hamlin-like numbers right there.
So Denny drops out, so there's a new face in the top 10. Let's start in the number 10 position with the guy that was 8th last week in the power rankings. He happens to also be 8th in the Cup Series point standings, and it is Joey Logano. And I guess the best way to describe the weekend for Joey, from the penthouse to the outhouse. He won the Truck Series race on Saturday, and then he made an early exit Sunday after some contact knocked him out of the race on lap 96, and he was credited with a last-place finish. So you can't get more opposite ends of the spectrum at Bristol than Joey Logano. He won on Saturday, but dead last, Baggy, on Sunday night.
I didn't see that one coming. You talking about the best and the worst in all, 24 hours, about 28 hours or whatever. The emotions of that 22 team. First out, I don't remember the last time that happened, and I'm sure he's not really happy about it, but that was a rough weekend for that 22 bunch.
Well, he's not happy, and I'm not happy because that was my pick to win the race. So that didn't turn out very well, did it? So unfortunately for Joey, he'll go to number 10. Number 9, same spot as last week, 9th, 6th in the Cup Series point standings, Kyle Busch. He was obviously the defending Bristol Dirt Race winner, but he also had an early departure from Sunday's race, had some suspension damage when he hit the wall, left with a 32nd place finish. So it has not been great for Kyle Busch. I thought Kyle had a decent car, but I heard Randall Burnett, his crew chief, on the post-race show or over the weekend here on the channel say, once you hit the wall, you're going to make some damage to the race car. They did, and suspension issues knocked him out.
I put that day in the category of it was going good until it wasn't. I thought he had something for him. I thought he may have a shot early on to go back-to-back, but that's not going to happen when you have some of the contact he had on Sunday.
Yeah, so Kyle looking to straighten things out here. Hasn't been the best couple of weeks for him. That includes, of course, the finish that he had 32nd on Sunday, 9th in the power rankings. Let's go to number 8, and this is the driver that displaced Denny Hamlin in the top 10, and it happens to be one of Denny's teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing, Martin Truex Jr. Pretty impressive top 10 performance for Truex Jr., not necessarily known as a dirt racer. He turned in a 7th on Sunday, started the race 27th. He has moved up to 7th in the point standing, so starting to right the ship there for the 19 team and Martin Truex Jr. after that whole issue the week before at Richmond when they didn't save the right set of tires for him at the end of the race.
2 things for the Truex team. Number 1, a sneaky top 10, 7th place. But I think the biggest thing, that's only his 2nd top 10 in 8 races. And he's been able to be consistent enough to stay in the top 10 in points. But again, Martin Truex Jr. like over there at JGR. But, if there's a good thing, he did finish in the top 10. Just wasn't a lot of braggadocio attached to that.
Now, again, I don't mean any disrespect here, but when you put together your Mount Rushmore of dirt racers, you probably don't have Martin Truex Jr. on that list, right? So,
no.
Good run for him and the 19 team to come on with the top 10 finish. So, Martin Truex Jr., number 8. Let's go number 7. 2 spots down. Last week he was 5th. He sits 11th now in the point standings. It's Alex Bowman. I don't know how else to say this. Just a rough day all around for Bowman. Never really in contention. He wound up 29th, 2 laps down. So put that one in the rearview mirror for Alex Bowman. We talk about sneaky a lot with him. There wasn't anything sneaky about his disappointing day there Sunday at Bristol.
There were a couple of drivers that I never even thought about all day, and at one point, like, you know what, I've not heard anything about blank. Well, Alex Bowman was one of those drivers for me. Like the 22, I'm sure that is a day that they would just soon go ahead and just forget.
Well, and conversely, what I just said about Truex Jr., Alex Bowman is a pretty good dirt racer because he's been doing some midget racing and that kind of thing, but he wasn't able to show anything for the day they had there. So we're going to put Alex Bowman 7th in the power rankings. We'll go to number 6, and this was the biggest drop of the week. The guy that was number 1 the last couple of weeks, William Byron. Not a horrible day for him. He's already won 2 times this year, as we all know, but he had his hands full pretty much all race. He did muscle home to a 13th place finish for the number 24 team. But coupled with how some of the other people did, and William not having the best day, that's why I moved him down to number 6. But he is still 14th in the point standings. And again, another day, a 2-time race winner so far this year. They'll probably take a 13th considering the way things played themselves out on Sunday, Mike.
I would say that the days for the 24 team on Sunday was, wasn't anything spectacular, wasn't anything awful. It was one of those run-of-the-mill kind of mid-pack finishing kind of situations, but nothing really spectacular from the 24 team, which, considering how successful as they've been, I'm sure they'll take that to get out of that dirt race and get back to the pavement and the concrete that's coming up. That'll be waiting these folks.
He did have a top 10 finish in stage 1, but William Byron went on to finish 13th. So he's number 6, which takes us to the top 5.
Number 5.
Number 5 is the guy who was number 5 last week. He is now 3rd in the point standings, and it's Kevin Harvick, who had a top 10 in what will definitely be his final shot at Cup racing on dirt at Bristol as he heads off to retirement. Quite frankly, I don't think that makes Kevin feel too sad to put the dirt at Bristol behind him based on some of the things he said, but just add to another solid start to the year that he's had. He has had that solid start for the first 8 races of the season, a 9th place finish, and Kevin Harvick, Baggy, sits number 3 in the point standings now, heading to Martinsville on Sunday.
He was that other driver that I mentioned a moment ago that I'd never really give a lot of thought to, didn't hear anything out of. Kevin Harvick was that guy. I'm sure they're happy to get out of Bristol with a top 10 finish, second one in a row, but not really a lot of flash on that Ford car over the weekend.
Not a lot of flash, but just as a quick aside, if you had him in your fantasy lineup for DraftKings, he started 26th, came all the way up to 9th. So not a bad run for Kevin Harvick. Kind of nondescript, as Bagman said, but we'll put him number 5 again this week in the power rankings. Let's go to number 4. Last week, this guy was the 3rd driver in our rankings. He still sits 2nd in the point standings. It is Ross Chastain. And his, over the last, I want to say, 4 or 5 weeks, he's improved his finishing position by 1 every race. Well, that didn't happen on Sunday. He had a rough day as well. Got caught up in a couple of things like a lot of people, and 28th was the best that Ross Chastain could do on Sunday. Not good for the one team at Trackhouse.
From 2 top 5s to that was a rough day for Ross. Again, I'm sure, like many, put the dirt in the rear view and get on to that asphalt and that concrete at Martinsville this weekend, where he put on a spectacular show last year. Yeah, that was... Look, the list of drivers that had finished this Sunday they would like to forget, I'll put Ross Chastain on that list too.
Agreed. And he was 1 lap down, actually, at the end of the race there when the checker flag flew. 28th place finish for Ross Chastain. He is number 4 in the power rankings.
Number 3.
Dillon got a great run out of turn 2. Dillon dives to the bottom of the racetrack, pulls alongside Reddick. It'll be a drag race back to start-finish line, and stage 2 goes to Tyler Reddick by about 6 feet over Austin Dillon.
Doug Rice of the PRN broadcast, you heard here on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, describing the driver who was number 4 last week in the power rankings. He's going to move up to number 3 this week. As you heard, Tyler Reddick. He did win a stage, and he came up just 1 spot short of making back-to-back trips to victory lane, following up his Richmond victory the week before. He did lead 69 laps on Sunday on his way to taking the checkered flag Sunday. So, not surprisingly, good dirt track racer, good finish for the 2311 team and Tyler Reddick.
If you give him a good car, he'll give you good results. And how about the versatility of his skill set? He can race wherever he needs to race and seems to maximize the equipment that he's given. Tyler Reddick, I'm telling you, man, he's starting to flex some muscle, and he did a good job over the weekend. I know he was kind of bummed out that he didn't win the race, second 2 years in a row, but I'm sure he's not going to turn down that second-place finish, considering some of the others around him and the challenges they had.
Good point day, too. He got 48 points because he was 8th in Stage 1, and as you heard, he did win Stage 2, and he wound up finishing 2nd in the race. So number 3, Tyler Reddick.
Number 2.
And we've got problems in turn 1 as another car gets around. Looks like that's Kyle Larson again. bringing out the yellow flag. That'll be the 11th yellow of the night here in the Food City Dirt Race.
Well, the guy that was in the middle of a lot of things is number 2 in the power rankings. That's the same spot as a week ago, and it is Kyle Larson. A couple of times with Ryan Preece. Larson started from the pole. He led 75 laps, but the box score says 35th after his lap 177 accident took him out of the race. So certainly a strong race car, certainly a talented driver, but a lot of circumstances, Bagman, lined up to give Kyle Larson a very disappointing finish Sunday in Bristol.
He was the class of the field. And I think that if he doesn't have those situations with Ryan Preece, he's our winner. Or it was going to come down to a battle royale between Larson and Bell, which I think that would have been well worth the price of admission. We just never got that far. Another disappointing day after a very prosperous day, at least in the early going up until that point.
Yeah, early going, he won the pole, he won first stage, finished third in the second stage, but after that, everything went south. So Kyle Larson will still keep him number 2. He's number 4 in the point standings, and that takes us to the top of the mountain.
Number 1.
3 cars getting around on turn number 3. Looks like they'll all get going as the leaders are now off turn 2.
White flag is in the air. The next flag ends this race as they race into turn 4, and the yellow flag comes out. The race is effectively over. Christopher Bell will be the first dirt track expert to win a cup race here at Bristol Motor Speedway. He does so under the yellow and checkered flag.
Now that's how it ended, the PRN race winning call. Yes, indeed, it is Christopher Bell, going from number 6 last week in the power rankings to number 1 this week. And as you heard Doug Rice say, the dirt racing specialist had all his talent on display there on his way to leading 100 laps. Victory number 1 of the season, and the 20 team are on a roll now, heading to Martinsville where they were victorious last fall. He's on top of the point standings, and he's also on top of the power rankings. Christopher Bell, number 1, heading to Martinsville.
That team is rolling right now, and rightfully so. They lead the points. Christopher Bell, Adam Stevens, that Toyota Camry, and Joe Gibbs Racing, to me, firing on all 8, and finally getting a win on dirt. Those are Pistol Pete's power rankings. You can check them out on the SiriusXM Sports blog. Tell you what, let's hit a break. We'll come back. We'll do a deeper dive on the other side. You can join the conversation as well at 866 Pit Lane as we go over this week's Pistol Pete's power rankings after the dirt race at Bristol.